Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series here on 3Y Television for tonight's Simbox Shootout here from the beautiful Daytona International Speedway. I'm Peter Short, and joining me alongside is Drew Eisenman. And Drew, great to be back at Daytona for a 60-lap race here tonight. We got 3 stages, each 20 laps apiece, to determine who is going to kick off the preseason with a win here tonight.
Yeah, Peter, Daytona always kind of signifies a new season beginning, as is the case with the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series here with NSRA. And yeah, kind of a good way for these guys to get out there, stretch their legs. No real big kind of implications on the line, just going out there, running hard, hopefully gaining the respect of your competitors. If you're one of these relatively new guys, which there are a couple fairly new drivers that we're going to see out here tonight. Though, Peter, as you mentioned, it's an exhibition race, so it is going to be a little different format with the 3 stages, each at 20 laps, and then, no points involved, so not a lot to lose for these guys, but a whole lot to gain with experience in preparing for that big Daytona 250 in a couple weeks' time.
Yeah, that Stay Tuned Sports sponsored Daytona race is going to be a lot of fun. Of course, next week we do have the shootout for the pole and the duels. That's going to be a lot of fun. We got a couple of drivers out there on the racetrack. We will be, of course, getting over into qualifying for tonight's Simbox shootout here in just a moment. We're looking at Tristan Thuggy Maher, and right behind him, Jason Gracias in the Backcraft number 1 Toyota. A couple drivers returning for another season here with some new-looking race trucks. And one thing about the National Sim Racing Association, Drew, that I have noticed over the seasons we've been broadcasting here on 3Y TV is the fact that we get some awesome trucks out there here in this series. They really do look awesome, and under the lights here at Daytona, that is just going to make them look a little bit better. There's the 81 of Randy Bledsoe out there on the racetrack, also returning this season. And there is the number S. Right, that's not the number 5, that's the number S. That's what he told me to say anyway. That is Matt Cherry coming down pit road right now. Might have been out of fuel there, trying to get that number 5 truck shaking to get all the fuel pickups. And of course, speaking of pickups, that is of course a pickup truck and a new look on the Ford pickup trucks this season, Drew, as the Ford F-150 has changed in its look. We'll see a couple of those out there on the racetrack here tonight. Tristan Thuggy Maher is another one of those. There's a good look at that new Ford body that they've brought to iRacing this season.
Yeah, I mean, a complete rebuild for a lot of these trucks. I know the Ford and the Chevy have a new model, and the Tundra was a ground-up rebuild. Whatever that actually means, I don't know. But I'm a big fan of both the Chevy and the Ford. I don't really know about the look of the new Tundra. It's polarizing, that's for sure. But it's great to see iRacing being on top of this, updating these trucks to the real-life counterpart standards of 2022, and it'll be interesting to see, Peter, if that actually reflects in any tangible change in the on-track product that we've seen, that we saw last year, and if that's reflected this year. I can't imagine it's going to be much better, but it's going to be really exciting to see nonetheless, as now we're getting right on it as far as moving to the race is concerned. And one thing that's kind of unique about this particular exhibition race, Peter, is there's no qualifying. So kind of a random mixed up grid, which is certainly going to make it exciting here in the opening laps of the race.
Patrick Morrison here in the number 20 Toyota. You see him on the left side of your screen right here with the number 29 machine of Adam Newton. Patrick, new to the NSRA here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast. This is the first time he's been in this 3-wide TV broadcasted event, so great to see a new face here in the Simbox Shootout here tonight. And of course, speaking of the Simbox Shootout, you can check them out at facebook.com/SimboxPC. The winner of this race, Drew, gets one of those Simbox button boxes that I know everyone wants to add to their sim rig. Get some extra buttons to, select fuel or take tires or make adjustments in the sim while not having to go to any of the black box menus that iRacing has. So going to be fun to see how that all works out this season as we are hopefully closing in on the end of the practice session. Of other drivers out there, there's Jason Shue in a Ford, just now bringing his number 3 F-150 out there on the racetrack. There is behind him. That is the number 25 of Randy Purdue. So the Purdues are back. The Randys are back, I should say, as the number 25 has a new look this season. Great to see that. And of course, bear with us, folks, while we get used to these new paint schemes out there. Some of them have changed, some of them have not, and that 25 being one of the more drastic changes from what we have seen in seasons past. But there's a similar paint scheme there, Drew. I know you're a big fan of the number 39 machine of Stenhouse and BeerStreetJournal.com. Once again, back sponsoring the National Sim Racing Association Truck Series this season in part. So great to see that number 39 out there of Stan Houseman.
Yeah, I know Beer Street Journal as kind of a contingency sponsor here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Also, of course, the presenting sponsor of the GNS Series that happens on Thursday night. So yeah, I love the 39 scheme. Black and white, always a classic color combination. Plus, I mean, who doesn't love a good beer? So Beer Street Journal providing awesome reviews and rundowns of all the beers out there. So great to see Stan in that 39 machine. Still running the 51. No longer Matt Cherry. I believe, was the 51 Matt Cherry? I don't know. Matt Cherry's run so many numbers between the 48 and now the number S, and who knows. I think Matt was the 51 last year. Now, Adam Lichty, I think I'm going to go with Lichty. We're still struggling to pronounce that name. In the 51 machine, Harpoon Racing designs on that number 51 machine. And yeah, still got some tandems running out there, Peter. Guys kind of turning laps here in the late stages of practice.
Yeah, but there is currently the fastest truck. That is the number 8 machine of Martin Plute. Currently atop the leaderboard here in the practice session with a lap time of a 48.25, 0.03 of a second faster than the second fastest man in town currently. That is Ben Mashburn in the number 4 machine. Also a new look on his truck this season. Last season, of course, it was Chester's Chicken. Got that winner Chester's Chicken Dinner win back at the Milwaukee Mile last season. But this year looks like he's gone a little bit more Italiano and got pizza on that number 4 Ford F-150. That is that Tony's Pizza? Somebody's Pizza. Let's see if we can get a better look. There we go. Jet's Pizza on the hood of the 4 this season.
Yeah, I love that Chester's Chicken scheme, the white and blue machine that we saw last year, but also Jet's Pizza. I can't quite tell what topping that is on the side. I can't tell if it's pepperoni or what. I'm going to assume pepperoni. But, I mean, as always, MaxGrafix always putting some solid schemes out there. Certainly looks like a pizza with the Italian flag there on the rear 1/3 of the truck as Ben Mashburn turning laps. And Peter, I think what we're waiting on right now is for one final driver to join, and then we will be getting this thing going. But, connection time sometimes in iRacing, it can take a minute to load in as we're waiting for our final drivers to connect. And it might have been this gentleman in the number 52 machine that we were waiting on, David. We're gonna see, right? That can be pronounced a couple different ways.
I'm gonna go with David Buell on that one. Buell, yeah. In that number 52, headed down the backstretch here in a Skittles Toyota Tundra. That thing gonna look good under the lights here tonight at Daytona. As hopefully we've got everyone into the session. I'm seeing pretty much all of the drivers except for I think Jeff Clifton in the number 15 have made it out to the racetrack at some point. So just waiting on Jeff Clifton in that number 15 machine, and hopefully can get out there here rather soon. Gonna go check out the chat here. Looks like we got a couple people joining us. We want to thank you first and foremost for joining us here on 3Y TV. Trey Rolson rooting on Tesoro Motorsports, saying let's go Tesoro Motorsports, baby. Colin Ullery doing a dab in the chat. Colin, welcome on in. Sergeant Savage and Dominic Tesoro saying the number 30 Tesoro Motorsports going to the front here tonight. Johnny Williams, good luck all. Hello to the booth. Matt Cherry, glad to be back in the number S machine. Matt, hopefully we'll get to interview you. I want to hear about this number S here. And Stay Tuned Sports podcast in the chat as well. And folks, if you have not checked out the Stay Tuned Sports podcast yet, I think they've even been talking about us recently, Drew. So great to have them here in the chat, and we'll be out there on the racetrack this season as well. Looking forward to seeing Jimbo out there. Ben Mashburn saying pepperonis, and now I think we have to ask the question, because we got the Jets pizza machine out there, Drew. What's your favorite pizza? If you were to just order a pizza, what you got on it?
So I would say that I default to whatever the pizza place is known for that I'm ordering from. I love a good margarita pizza, but I got to say, if I don't know what's good wherever I'm ordering, or if I go to my default place, which is fantastic Double Dave's Pizza, which is kind of a Texas area deal, I'm getting the works. I'm getting, hey, throw as many toppings on that thing as possible. The works is my go-to, Peter. What about yourself?
You know, I like a margarita with my pizza. Now, I'll say that. But, you know, I'm just a sucker for just generic pepperoni. I've always really enjoyed just the pepperoni pizza. That was my pizza growing up. That's my pizza today. And I'm looking forward to see what that Jets pepperoni can do at some point. Matt Cherry, let's keep up the good work. 3Y TV, Alex Orb, let's go. Juju, yo, what's up, Dave? Got a whole bunch of people in the chat. Looking forward to what we have here tonight. We got all these drivers now gridding. And Drew, I think it's about time for us to go through tonight's starting lineup, because we got trucks out there gridding up. And let's see. Sometimes it does not like the random grid. We'll see. Hopefully the graphics package does like it. What I'm seeing from this anyway. Let's see if it's true. Yeah, it does look like it's true. Does look like it's accurate. That Martin Plute, the man who was fastest in the practice session, will be starting the Simbox shootout from the pole. It's a little bit of a random draw here for the pole here, Drew. But Martin Plute will be starting up front alongside Matt Cherry in the number S machine. No, that it looks like a number 5, but he has told me it is an S. Jason Gracias will be on row number 2. Scott Tompkins will also be on row number 2 on the grid, but Scott Tompkins is the outer race official, will not be starting. Adam Newton, Randy Bledsoe on row number 3. Tristan Maher, Randy Perdue round out row number 4, and David Buell and Nathan Maurer inside your top 10.
In 11th position, Stan Hausman with Christopher Darling starting to his outside. Justin White in the number 2 machine starting 13th, with Patrick Morrison starting in 14th. Then it's Adam Leichty in that number 51 machine with the 15 of Jeffrey Clinton starting to his outside. Doug Neal in that double 7 machine starting 17th with the number 32 of Mickey Williams in 18th. Then it's Ben Mashburn in that 4 machine with Julian Tesoro in the 30, and then rounding out our field, that number 3 of Jason Chu.
So the field just now working their way down the backstretch. We'll be seeing the green flag this time. The iRacing pace car will be heading down on to pit lane. Looks like we got a lot of fans in the chat of Julian Tesoro. Got great to see everyone rooting on their favorite driver here tonight. If you hear the kiddo in the background, that's right. Over the offseason here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, I've had a kid, and that kid sometimes makes noise. So we will be dealing with that at some point here throughout the season. But want to thank all of you for tuning on in, Drew. Going to be a great season. A lot of good races coming up. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Daytona has in store for us, not only tonight, but next week and the week after. 2 weeks from now, of course, the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast 300 here at Daytona is the granddaddy of them all.
Yeah, Daytona, again, as I mentioned earlier, it feels like the start of a new season when we're here at Daytona, especially in the kind of opening months of the new year in 2022. And here we go. Green flag is out. Martin Plute in that number 8 machine leading the field to the first green flag of the 2022 Stay Tuned Sports Podcast truck season. And on the short shoot, we got him going now into turn 1. The 4 of Ben Mashburn did not get a great initial start, and he is kind of struggling to get up to speed, but up front and through the majority of the front of the field, a pretty clean start as we are going 2 by 2 for the majority of the field as the number 39 of Stan Hausman pulls out a line, probably making a move to the back to kind of get out of the opening lap chaos that can sometimes happen here at Daytona.
Yeah, and there was almost a little bit of chaos right up at the front of the field. Not sure if it was a bad bump, but Matt Cherry looked a little bit unnerved there down the backstretch. Got the number 8 of Martin Pluto, of course, our pole sitter, right back behind him. Now, folks, if you're wondering about how this race is going to go, we got a 20-lap shootout here. And once we get to lap number 20 here in the Simbox shootout, we have some changes. And one of those changes is that we got a mandatory green flag 4-tire pit stop in this first segment, Drew. Top 15 drivers go on to stage number 2, and then there is a field invert after the stage. And looking at it, we've already got a couple of those drivers making that 4-tire pit stop. Something's happened here. Julian Tesoro stopped on pit road, and not sure if maybe forgot to check tires or something like that, but was halted on pit road. We'll have to see what exactly became of that. There's Doug Neal coming out back onto the racetrack, and here comes the lead pack. Your race leader, Matt Cherry, on pit road, then the number 8, Martin Pluto. So these drivers, Drew, anticipating the possibility of a caution flag at some point during this stage. Just want to get this 4-tire green flag pit stop out of the way here early.
Yeah, and of course at Daytona, the worst you're going to do is just fall right behind the leaders with that 4-tire stop. Now the 30 of Julian Tesoro did have a change lanes penalty on the initial start, made it 3 wide before the start finish line. A little bit of contact with the number 4 machine on that initial start when they made it 3 wide through the trial. Well, that is why Ben Mashburn got such a terrible initial start, and why the 30 kind of had some dramatics going on. But here we go with more drivers getting that green flag pit stop out of the way. The number 81, 25, 17 machines all coming down pit road. And I mean, this is a logical move, Peter, right? You can absolutely make 20 laps, so there's no worry of running out of fuel here by pitting early, as the number 25 did the thing that you really can't do here at Daytona, and that is run past your pit sign to where you have to back up, which costs you a ton of time. Even at a non-restrictor plate course, that severely hampers you, right? You're just giving up time that you've earned on the track. But here at Daytona, where the draft is so important, giving up those tenths of a second, even if it's just 1 or 2. Oh, we got a spin on the front stretch, Peter. The number 30's around. The number 77 involved as well, and our first caution of the night is out.
Caution number 1, and this is what those drivers who just came down pit road wanted to see. Let's see if we can figure out exactly what happened here. You brought up the number 30. That is Julian Tesoro. We got a couple of drivers in the chat, and there's contact right there. They kind of get hooked together, and the 30 just goes around right here on the front straight. We'll get another look at that one, able to keep it off of the wall. That's the good news. But going around, bringing out that first caution. Let's see, put this one into the 3-wide TV slow motion. Doug Neal there in the Simbox 77 Silverado, a veteran of the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Looked like Tesoro might not have known that he was there, Drew. Came down the racetrack. They make contact, and then they make contact right there again. A little bit of neck code, it looks like, kind of tagged them together. Good job by Tesoro to get it locked down and keep it off the wall and not come up across the racetrack significantly. There was another truck flashing by at speed, but enough to bring out our first caution flag of the night. Big thing, though, is a couple of drivers had not made their green flag pit stops, and that could very well come back to haunt them at the end of this stage, as we're under our first caution here, working lap number 4 of 60. It has been an interesting start to the race. Green flag pit stops, as we expected, Drew. Get those out of the way. But these drivers are racing for the top 15 to make it into stage number 2. We were in the throes of going through the different stages of tonight and how tonight's going to work out. But 15 drivers advance to stage number 2. That is after lap number 20. Then, after lap number 40, 10 drivers advance into the final stage, and there is a field inversion between stages number 2 and 3. So a field inversion in every stage for everyone at home to keep that, to track that. But then Of course, 10 drivers for that final shootout. So hopefully not necessarily all too confusing. 15 drivers for stage number 2, 10 drivers for the final stage. Each stage is 20 laps, field inversions between each stage, and the first stage has that green flag pit stop that you have to make. So hopefully that's it in a nutshell, Drew, something that we will be keeping in mind here tonight. Of course, this is the only race. This Simbox shootout is the only race like that on the season. So we only have to keep this in the back of our heads for this one race.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, with that elimination format, those drivers who didn't make their green flag pit stops are in a horrible position now. That's why we saw everybody on lap 2 and 3 coming down pit lane under green flag conditions, was because if this exact thing happened, and those guys that didn't pit, now they're going to have to, and if there's not another caution, I mean, they're essentially removing themselves from the race, Peter. They got to hope that a caution is going to come out after their pit stop, as now we are extending the caution by another lap. I don't think caution laps necessarily count here tonight. We'll see as they roll through. Yeah, well, in fact, they do, which is even worse news, quite frankly, for those trucks who are have not made their green flag stop. Yeah, they just have to hope there's another caution, which, quite frankly, Peter, with 20 trucks on the lead lap, it's not that probable that happens. Now, of course, there could be some late last couple lap dramas going on, especially for that 15th position, and that's what I'm excited to see, Peter, with this race here tonight, is once we get towards the end of those 20-lap stages, on lap 20, on lap 40, what's that racing going to be like for that 15th and final transfer spot? What's the race for 10th position going to look like as we approach lap 40 at the end of that second stage? I think that is going to be an incredibly exciting dynamic that is cool that we're experimenting with that stuff here in an exhibition race, especially in something like the shootout here at Daytona.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, usually, we talk about end of stages. Usually there's points on the line or something like that. Well, there's no points on the line here tonight in this one. So all the chaos is going to be happening mid-pack. If you're up at the front, you're going to feel happy. You're going to be, you know what, I'm coming to move on to the next stage. But if you're back there mid-pack, it is going to get dicey. It's going to get hairy. It's going to get exciting here on 3Y TV. Caution laps do not count. That was just kind of a graphical glitch. It has to kind of count the lap and then subtract the lap. So if you see that the lap count up there at the top of the screen kind of is bouncing back and forth, that's the reason why. It does that automatically. But the pace truck is headed down pit road. The field not necessarily formed up very well back there. I'm a bit surprised we are going green, but the green flag is in the flagman's hand. It's waving. We're back green here with the number 20. Patrick Morrison leading the field. Drew has not pitted here so far, and that could be very costly because we do know Patrick Morrison has to make that green flag pit stop in that number 20 Toyota Tundra up at the front of the field. I expect Patrick to come down pit road this time, and if he does go a lap down, we get another caution. Of course, we do have our good friends over at Brookstone Animal Hospital sponsoring the Lucky Dog Award this season as well. Here comes the number 17, though. Tristan Thuggy Maher down to the inside, trying to take the race lead from the number 81 of Randy Bledsoe.
Yeah, Peter, I didn't quite keep track. I mean, based on where they restarted, I believe the 20 is the only truck that didn't pit, and he does not come down pit road that time by. We'll see how that strategy works out for that 20 machine as these laps click down. It's just a smaller and smaller margin of error for that 20, and the more luck, quite frankly, that he is counting on. But one thing I've noticed here tonight, Peter, in just the 6 green flag laps that we've run, is the aggression of these drivers shoving each other in the bump drafting, getting just, I mean, even if it's not bump drafting, getting right on each other's rear bumpers, even through the center of the corners. I know these trucks are a little bit more planted, especially compared to the next-gen cars, but these trucks sure getting out there and shoving each other. And I guess this is the type of race to do that. You don't want to do that in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast 250. You want to do that in an exhibition race where if something goes wrong, yeah, it's not great. You never want to wreck out of a race, but ultimately that doesn't really impact your season too negatively versus, of course, starting the season off with a pretty not great finish just put yourself behind the 8 ball to start the season as we're riding on board with that 30 machine now on the number S machine. And I was wrong, Peter. I said the 51 was Matt Cherry last season. Of course, it was the 54, and now the number S machine here this season with Stay Tuned Sports still on board. That machine driven by Matt Cherry is 2x2x2. No surprise here with these trucks at Daytona.
One driver is off the back of the field, should be coming into view here very shortly as, well, maybe not. That's the number 4 of Ben Mashburn, currently sitting 1 lap plus down. We'll need one of those Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Awards here in a hurry to be able to get back on to the lead lap to try and contend for a top 15 position here. Now, if we do have a big enough accident, Drew, takes out a couple of these trucks, that might play to Ben Mashburn's benefit as well, but we only have 13 laps until we see the end of stage number 1 here tonight. Only 125 miles. It is a sprint in terms of most of the races that we will have here on 3Y TV this season in the National Sim Racing Association. A lot of really good racetracks will be visited this season. Really looking forward to the action that they always put on. I mean, we've seen that over the last couple seasons. Some absolutely stellar races, some of the best races we've ever broadcast here on 3Y TV over the 3.5 to 4 years now that we've been broadcasting here on YouTube. And speaking of, we want to thank all of you in the chat joining us. I know we got Trey Rolfson was rooting on Julian earlier. Now maybe not all too happy with the way things have gone here in the early going, but Julian Tesoro right now on the bubble, riding in the 15th position. That is the cut spot. If you finish any lower than 15th, you will not make it into stage number 2 there with the number 3 right alongside him of Jason Shu, also back here in the danger zone. Nathan Maurer in his Simbox Chevy Silverado. And Nate is one of those drivers, Drew, that we're usually talking about being up at the front here at Daytona. Always quick on the super speedways, getting with his Simbox teammates like Doug Neal. Speaking of Doug Neal, he's also in the cut zone as well in the Simbox shootout. Right back there, the number 77 riding in the 19th spot, and right between them, that's David Buell in that skills machine. So if you're counting at home, who's in the cut spots right now? Jason Shu, Nathan Maurer, David Buell, Doug Neal, and Ben Mashburn. Mashburn, of course, like I mentioned a little while ago, is currently sitting over 1 lap down and is not with the lead pack, so is bleeding time as well. Needs one of those Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Awards to get back on the lead lap. Halfway through stage 1, however, 10 laps in the books, 10 laps until the end of the stage, and it is Tristan Thuggy Maher up at the front of the field, side by side, back behind him. The number 20, Patrick Morrison, Drew, still yet to make that green flag pit stop in that machine. That is going to be questionable. It's not only a green flag pit stop, but it has to be a 4-tire green flag pit stop. So that's something for the race administrators to watch out for as well. So I expect to see that number 20 down pit road here as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I got to imagine here now. Oh, the 2 machine on 2 wheels going through the short chute. Not ideal for that number 2, as now he is coming down pit lane. But I have to imagine that 20 machine here, Peter, just doesn't realize that he needs to make that green flag stop. That's the only thing I can imagine. Is now we're going to see exactly what happened with this number 2 coming out of turn 4. Was there any net code, anything? Oh, whoa! That looked like net code, Peter. And if that is the most insane net code I've ever seen in my life.
That net code was something that Justin White should send to iRacing. He should get a refund for this month. That was absolutely absurd. Watch this. All of a sudden, the number 2 machine gets launched towards the wall like he blew a tire, and then does his best Carl Long impression there in between turns number 3 and 4. But that might be night done for the number 2 machine. That is ridiculous. Tough break for Justin White. And, you know, we say it's a tough break. We say, yeah, you should get a refund, but that is Sim Racing's version of blowing a tire almost, Drew. Just out of the blue into the wall like that. Yeah, it's a tough break. Luckily for Justin, there's no points on the line, but I know he's going to feel a little bit niffed about that one. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field is the number 81 machine, Randy Bledsoe. Been trading back and forth the lead with Tristan Thuggy Maher there. And here comes the number 20 machine coming down. Patrick Morrison is finally going to bleed off the racetrack and make his green flag pit stop. I think the only driver left to do so. So we'll come down, lose quite a bit of time. Luckily, only needs a couple more spots, a couple of more trucks that have issues like the number 2 of Justin White to be able to make it in, but these laps quickly winding down. Checking out Stay Tuned Sports in the chat saying, hey, can I get a happy birthday for the wife? Mealy was her birthday yesterday. I said it the way she says it there, Stay Tuned Sports, to go along with the birthday as a birthday present. Meanwhile, also saying, did iRacing try to redo the Dumas space launch from a couple seasons ago? Yeah, Jamar Dumas got launched up into space here a couple seasons ago at Daytona. There's Justin White well off the pace and bringing it down onto pit road. I believe Justin White's night is done. And tell you what, great racing up at the front of the field. Drew, we're focusing on the battle for the lead right now. It's just kind of going back and forth, but things are starting to get a little bit more interesting back here around the 15th position. Currently, David Buell is in the cutoff spot. That is that Skittles machine. They're going to have to make a charge. If you're at the 77 of Doug Neal, you're going to have to try and get racy here pretty quickly if you're going to try and race your way in to stage number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess right now, honestly, as the number 30 was making his green flag pit stop as well, I think those were the 20 and the 30 were the only 2 machines that needed to do that. But yeah, I guess if you're the 77, right, you only need to grab that one spot. And quite frankly, I would rather be the truck that needs to pass rather than the truck that is just in front of that position. As here comes Doug Neal making a move to the outside. And that is one thing that at super speedways is a very, very viable move, especially when trucks are running single file like these trucks are towards the tail end of the main pack. There's a lot of checking up that goes on, especially going into the corners, and that is what we're seeing with Doug Neal trying to make a move to the outside, make his way up to the front, and we're seeing it work out right pretty well there as 3 wide. Oh, contact between the 29 and the 15 machines right there, Peter, and that could have really changed the dynamics of this race, but they sorted out, and now 3 wide for the race lead.
3 wide for the race lead here at Daytona International Speedway on 3 Wide TV. You don't often see 3 wide at Daytona a whole lot. You see it more at Talladega. Now action starting to pick up mid-pack as well. Battle for the race lead. Battle for 15th. Currently, the driver in danger is Nathan Maurer, the teammate of Doug Neal. These 2 drivers now kind of trading the danger position. The 971 here, Nate Maurer, like I said, we usually see him up at the front here at Daytona, not back here languishing around 16th in the danger zone, running right behind Stan Houseman. Maybe he's thinking, Drew, that they're going to all junk him up in front of him here as the lap count winds down towards the end of stage number 1. Remember, Drew, you really kind of want to be 15th position because there's a stage inversion. The whole field gets inverted. And so if you're 15th, not only are you the lucky one to get into the second stage, but you're also going to be starting the next stage at the front. So that's something to keep in mind too. Maybe being up at the front like Tristan Thuggy Maher is not that great of a deal as you see the field now closing in on several of these lap trucks. That is the number 30 there of Julian Tesoro going a lap down. Now they're going to catch up to the back of the number 20. Where's the number 20 going to go? The number 20 is going to stay right there in the middle of the racetrack. We got people going below the yellow line. And the number 20 just going to be right there in the middle of the racetrack. Here comes the number S right there of Matt Cherry. Going to try and pick up the number 20 machine, but the whole field going all over the place. And Drew, I would say that those drivers who went below the yellow line would be arguing, I did not advance my position going below the yellow line, and we keep things green flag. Meanwhile, back there in the transfer spot, the 971 still needs 1 extra spot to be able to make it into the second stage. We got just 2 laps left until the end of this stage. What can Nathan Maurer do?
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly not going to be lifting at this point, Peter. He's close enough to where I don't think he's going to lose the draft, especially with what I would imagine would be some pretty big checkups from the trucks in front as we're 2x2x2 basically throughout the field. But yeah, I mean, he's certainly going to need to close up on those guys here on this last lap and make a move. When you leave it to the last lap, it just takes one good block to basically kill your momentum. As now the 971 makes a move to the high side through the tri-oval on the outside of Jason Shu, trying to get that final transfer spot. We'll see if he can make that move stick through 1 and 2 as they are still racing side by side up front, folks. And now the 971 definitely in front of that number 3 machine. It's just kind of what happens to the momentum in front of Nathan Maurer.
The 3-wide TV blimp cam watches the racing down the backstretch. The bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you see the battle for the race lead. It is currently Randy Bledsoe that leads the field as we head towards turn number 3 and 4. The current driver on the bubble is Stan Houseman in the number 39. Got the yellow numbers on the top of that truck. Here we go to the line. Will it be Stan Houseman? Will it be Jason Shu making it into the next round? The field scatters all over the place, and I believe Jason Shu is going to be the first driver out as they went across the line. Patrick Morrison, Julian Tesoro in the number 30, Ben Mashburn in the number 4, and Justin White in the number 2 are the other drivers eliminated at the end of stage number 1. There's the number 4, Ben Mashburn. He will not be happy with the way things went. Julian Tesoro now pulling to the bottom side of the racetrack and will be departing. Unfortunately, Patrick Morrison will be coming down pit road this time, and Jason Shu as well. So, wow. One caution, Drew, in the opening stage threw, I think, a couple of drivers off strategy, and that, I mentioned you got to get down pit road early just in case that caution flag comes out. That caution, unfortunately, bit some of our drivers in the field.
Yeah, and the difference, Peter, between 15th and 16th, 0.031 seconds. So it doesn't get a lot closer. They were side by side, I mean, darn near 3 wide. For that final transfer spot, ultimately Stan Houseman with a slight advantage over Jason Shu. And then we mentioned the pit strategies that we were both wondering how they would work out. They didn't work out in the favor of Patrick Morrison or Julian Tesoro. But and of course, yeah, Ben Mashburn had that problem on the start and then just never was kind of on pace with that Ford machine. Unfortunately, he is going home. Of course, the number 2, who was on 2 wheels for half of the front stretch. Unfortunately, that number 2 machine was way off pace after that incident. But yet now we just inverse this field. So all of the quick guys that we saw up front, they're going to be starting at the very back of the field, with the 81 of Randy Bledsoe restarting 15th and Stan Houseman restarting 1st. So, Peter, this is going to throw literally the entire field on its head.
Yeah, that it will, and I expect to see some of these trucks, though, come down pit road here, come down, get some fuel. Before we do the field inversion, here comes the number 81 to lead them onto pit road. Of course, laps under caution are not counted here tonight, and that is something to keep in mind. A couple of the other drivers just now coming down onto pit road and will be leaving the track here shortly. But the 81 Drew up front for pretty much a good portion with the number 17, Tristan Thuggy Maher. It really didn't get racy there until lap number 15 or 16 when we saw them go 3 wide. But the number 81 there of Randy Bledsoe able to kind of hold off the field to get the win in stage 1.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's good to win stage 1, right? It's always fun to kind of win any part of any race. But ultimately, I think it's not being in 11th position come the end of lap 40, starting lap 41, that's what these guys are going to be focused on now. I think avoiding 15th is going to be a little easier than avoiding 10th, especially with the misfortunes and kind of the pit strategies that didn't work out for some of those drivers out there. I mean, there's no green flag pit stop required for stage 2, so I think things are going to be a heck of a lot tighter for that 10th position, and I think it's going to get real racy. And Peter, I don't think we're not going to see an incident caused for racing for that 10th position there on that last lap, because you just don't have a lot to lose. If you finish 11th, you go home. If you finish 10th, you keep racing. And so I think there's going to be a lot of pressure for those guys to make sure that they get into that top 10, just like we saw a lot of pressure between Jason Shu and Stan Hausman racing for that 15th position there on that last lap. And it'll be interesting to see now that we have 5 less trucks on the track. Peter, do you think the racing is going to be a little calmer for the majority of this next stage, or do you think it's just going to be just as wild?
I think it's going to be just as wild because now we have these drivers like Randy Bledsoe that appeared quite hungry in the early running. Now they're going to be well back in the pack because of that inversion. And I think they're going to want to get back to where they have been so far here tonight, and that's up front here in the field. It's going to take us a little bit to get everything kind of all sorted out and everyone back in line here, folks, because of the field inversion. That field inversion has been completed as they all start to form up back behind the pace car. So I believe that... well, I can't quite figure out at this point who the race leader is going to be. It looks like it's going to be Stan Hausman in the number 39, the BeerStreetJournal.com Ford F-150. If you have not checked out BeerStreetJournal.com yet, you go check them out for all of the best beer news, especially if you're into craft breweries and craft beer. BeerStreetJournal.com provides you the best news that you can get in regards of craft beer, and I always check it out, Drew. I love checking out BeerStreetJournal.com and all the posts that they have. Follow them on Facebook, follow them on Twitter. They have some really insightful posts in the craft beer community.
Yeah, and you know, I know you're a beer fan. I know I'm a beer fan, enjoying my favorite Austin beer, the Austin Beer Works Mega Flora Juicy Double IPA, as we broadcast here tonight. Absolutely. My favorite beer in the Austin area. It's fantastic. And yeah, it's awesome to have Beer Street Journal as a premier partner with NSRA, of course, the title sponsor with the GNS Thursday night series. And of course, the big sponsor behind that number 39 machine, who sports a few sponsors that he brings to the lead throughout the season. But Beer Street Journal, again, my favorite scheme of last year, making its return here tonight. And here we go, Peter. Field is inverted. The lights are out on the pace truck. I think we're going to see quite a bit of action once these guys get going again.
Yeah, and we're just one lap away from when that's happening. So a good-looking 971 machine of Nathan Maurer. And now, Drew, Nathan Maurer is exactly where we usually see him here at Daytona, up at the front of the field. So I'm not too surprised now after the full field inversion. But checking out the chat, what are you all enjoying about tonight's race? Are you enjoying tonight's race? What do you think of the racing so far? What do you think we're going to see here in the final 2 stages? Brotherhood Racing in the chat asking Sergeant Savage why he's not out there, and Sergeant Savage letting him know that he got spun in the open race. And of course, that's one thing we have not mentioned here tonight, Drew. We didn't have a whole lot of drivers who were actually locked into this shootout. Some of them had to race their way in from the Simbox Open that was just before this shootout, and a couple of those drivers raced their way in. Of course, we did have several locked in drivers. The drivers who were locked in here tonight, Nick Kessler, who's not in the field, Tristan Thuggy Maher, Philip Scott, Chris Darling, Jason Gracias, Jordan Scheffler, Randy Bledsoe, Jeff Price, Ben Mashburn, Justin White, and Matt Cherry were all locked in. Everyone else had to race their way in. Back to green flag racing, though, out there on the racetrack, the number 39, Stan Hausman leads the field.
Yeah, and Peter, I got to say, I think that being not locked in and making it in is a little beneficial, because you get out there in under race conditions. You get to experience what these trucks do and how they react to actual drafting and racing intensity, which is just, quite frankly, different than what you experience in practice. You don't make those aggressive moves. You don't get the big runs in practice that you do during race conditions. And so, yeah, I think it's beneficial to make the race. It's always nice to not have to worry about making the race, but to be in that shootout open race and then to make it into the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series Simbox Shootout is just it's a good learning experience that I think those guys might benefit from later on in this race. Is now that 77, of course, with that invert, Doug Neal, Stan Hausman, Matt Cherry, Mikey Williams, all up towards the front. And this is what we talked about, Peter, with that invert. And now that there's not that green flag pit stop, I don't think there's necessarily going to be that big opportunity to change your track position. Stan Hausman kind of voluntarily giving up track position. I don't know that I agree with this move here, Peter.
Yeah, Hausman dropping to the back. Now he was able to make it through to, of course, stage number 2, and has a couple of wins here. At least a win back at Talladega a couple seasons ago here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. So he knows how to get to victory lane on a super speedway. Might be seeing that the racing is a little bit closer. Might be anticipating a big incident. And also anticipating a big incident is Stay Tuned Sports in the chat. Jimbo thinks, Drew, that we're going to have a big accident at some point. So I don't blame you, Jimbo. Tonight is checkers or wreckers. I mean, that is the name of the game. No points on the line. There's no implications next week at Daytona when we finally get into the duels. And, of course, it's just bragging rights here tonight. And, of course, that Simbox button box. That's right. Simbox on the hood of Doug Neal's number 77 machine. You can check them out at facebook.com/SimboxPC. They're giving away a button box, a in-house built button box that these drivers will be able to use when playing iRacing and driving out there in any sim to have custom buttons, custom button mapping so that they can adjust these trucks by the press of a button, maybe have an ignition button or starter motor button, whatever. The number S machine up there, Matt Cherry getting a little bit squirrely, mid-pack also. The number 81, Bledsoe back there looked a little bit squirrely, and I think that's indicative here, Drew, that some of these drivers back here specifically, they've been up at the front for a majority of the night, and all of a sudden they're back here in the pack. They are in a position that they haven't been in this entire race so far.
Yeah, and if you're not used to bump drafting guys and you bump draft somebody just a little bit wrong, maybe a little bit of lateral difference in speed, right? You're kind of moving to the left, the other truck's moving to the right, and vice versa, and you make contact. That's what really upsets these trucks. Yeah, I mean, a really, really big difference in true straight line speed is going to upset these trucks, but it's really that kind of lateral speed difference that really causes big wiggles and moments like we just saw for that number 81 machine. And Randy Bledsoe, not a lot of experience out front. I don't necessarily think he was the person who kind of caused that moment. Typically, the truck that has the moment is the one that gets a bad bump. But, when you're just kind of not used to those guys shoving you in those ways, that can lead to those type of moments, as the 971 and the 77 teaming up on that bottom lane, trying to hold off that number S machine of Matt Cherry with, I can't quite make out the number on the truck on the outside, if I'm totally honest, so I will have to use the good old move back feature. I don't know if there is a door number. That is Mikey Williams in that 32 machine. Hopefully that number 32 will get a door number on that pretty cool black and green scheme this season, as he's pushing Matt Cherry on that outside lane with Chris Darling, who I believe, Peter, if I'm informed correctly, is not necessarily running a full-time schedule this season, but of course in these exhibition races, going out there having fun, as we are rapidly closing in on halfway on this stage.
Yeah, I was going to mention that as well. Already 7 full laps in the books, working lap number 8 of stage number 2 here tonight. He's got a good long angle shot of the trucks as they head down the backstretch here at Daytona, the Daytona super stretch. We're starting to see Matt Cherry there maybe start to contend for the race lead as the two Simbox trucks are glued together. Remember, Drew, at the end of stage number 2, where you take the top 10 drivers and invert them for a final 20-lap shootout. So going to be very interesting to see when we get to that final 20-lap shootout what 10 drivers we have left and if the racing is going to change. Sometimes when you're in a pack like this, you get kind of boxed in. In fact, if we go back and look at one of the drivers that are currently mid-pack, let's go on board here with David Buell in the number 52 machine, who's currently in the cutoff spot, in the 10th spot. A little bit boxed in here, got the number 25 up there. There's the number 1 of Jason Gracias just kind of peering off the right side of the screen. There goes Tristan Thuggy Maher in the number 17. Now that outside line got a big head of steam. There goes Randy Bledsoe. And there's nothing here that David Buell could do. He was in the transfer spot when we jumped on board with him, now falling all the way down to 14th there on that inside line. And there's nothing you can do because the car to your right is there. You can't just go up there, especially when you're down there on the bottom line. And the fewer trucks you have, the more space you have out there to, maybe I'm going to go up to the third lane. Maybe I can try and pry my way down to the bottom side. Maybe you can try and create a little bit more room. But right now, these lines are very pronounced. You got that high line, which is now led by Mikey Williams. It was led by Matt Cherry, but Cherry's been now shuffled back to the 4th truck on the inside groove as we close in on the halfway mark of stage number 2 this time by.
In green flag conditions thus far, Peter, in stage 2. Yeah, and as you mentioned, I don't ever love to be trapped a few trucks back on that inside lane because, as you mentioned, there's really nowhere to go without forcing trucks into horrible situations, which are probably not going to work out, especially here at Daytona. Talladega, a little different. You can run three wide a little more comfortably there, but here at Daytona, it's just so hard to make 3 wide work. It's about, what, 4.5 truck widths wide? Which, of course, when you're moving around at speed, as these things tend to do, especially if you're not kind of that lead truck, it is 3 wide is not a very safe maneuver. And so if you are a truck like the 51 machine back there, and you're just kind of trapped, you got a truck in front of you, you got a truck behind you, you got a truck on the outside, and that high lane starts getting momentum and starts making a run, there's just nowhere for you to really go. And, oh, there's contact at 25, the 11, the 5, the 81. Oh, a huge impact into the outside wall for that machine. The number 8 was hard into the outside wall. And, Peter, that is our, I think that's about as big of a wreck as we're probably going to get here tonight, as that was probably 6, 7, 8 trucks involved.
Yeah, let's break this one down. Contact between the 11 and the 25. Matt Cherry goes around. Randy Bledsoe, who was our Stage 1 winner, goes for a ride into the grass. Let's see if we can get a look a little bit further back in the pack. Keep your eyes on Stan Hausman back here. He was able to slow down and get his way through the accident. I think the biggest hit of all drivers was the number 8 machine of Martin Plute. Watch the number 8. In fact, let's see if we can go on board with the number 8 machine right here. There's the initial accident and just gets clipped and thrown up into the outside wall and then comes back down to the low side of the racetrack and hits the number 25 again. That is definitely the biggest hit we've seen. We'll see how much damage came of it throughout the field here in just a little bit, but let's see if we can see go on board here maybe with Chris Darling, the number 11 machine, and just kind of minding his P's and Q's right here. There's that contact, and he goes into the grass to save it. Good job there by the number 11 as back behind him. Chaos ensued. Let's see if we can get another look. Let's see if we can see what happened here to Jeff Clifton. Keep your eyes here on Jeff's machine. Looks like he's able to slow up in time, get through it. That's good news for him. Just trying to pick out a couple of these other drivers. I think Adam Lichty also got a good chunk of it in the number 51 machine. Man, really close there, Drew, to getting another look of the number 8 of Martin Plute. Let's see if we can go back maybe just a little bit further and go on board with Adam Lichty as he was able to scoot on through this accident. See if we can maybe assess some of the damage here. There goes number 25. Oh, there goes Randy Bledsoe. Good save by the 81. He was Almost turned into the inside. Whoa, wow. That's, you're going to need some new underwear after that one, I think, there, Adam. Doesn't look like a whole lot of damage. Hopefully we can come down pit road and get that truck patched up as we're under caution here halfway through stage number 2.
Oh, I do have a request from one Chris Darling is to show his right front damage. And Peter, I really liked what the 15. Yeah, I mean, if I were that number 11, I would probably bring that thing down pit lane, especially given the significant contact that some of those other trucks had. If you're damaged and you don't get it fixed and we go green from here on, you're probably going to miss the show or stage 3. But I really liked what that 15 did in the 39 of Stan Houseman. It's kind of one of my favorite maneuvers at a super speedway. When there's a wreck kind of out in front of you by quite a ways, what you can do is park that thing on that high lane and just slam on the brakes as hard as possible because, hey, gravity's a magical thing, right? What goes up must come down. And so what's going to happen here on these super speedways, as a good look on that right front of that number 11 machine, is those trucks are going to go up the banking as, you know, that forward momentum turns into lateral momentum as the corner continues. And then they're going to, as they slow down, they're going to fall back down that banking. And so if you can get that truck on the high lane and just hit those brakes as hard as possible and just slow down and match the momentum of the wreck in front of you, that high lane can be really beneficial as those trucks slide back down. And that's exactly what we saw the 15 do, and it's exactly what we saw Stan Houseman do, and they were able to make it through that wreck cleanly because, Peter, I don't think there's a lot of clean trucks left on the track at this point.
Definitely fewer than there were before. That is for certain. Just now looking at the number of trucks that we have lined up. We are missing a few in this lead group. Martin Plute on pit road. Randy Perdue also on pit road. And we'll see whether or not either the 8 or the number 25 are able to get back out on pit road. There's the number 25 of Randy Perdue. There's the number 8 of Martin Plute. We know that Martin Plute had the heaviest hit of all drivers in that number 8 machine, but Randy Perdue also still sitting on pit road, and that's bad news because the pace truck lights are off. Technically still on the lead lap until we go back a green flag, but we may have just lost our 15th and 14th placed trucks of Randy Perdue and Martin Plute. That would put us at 13 trucks here racing for the 10 spots to make it into the final stage here tonight at the Daytona International Speedway. Pace truck heads down on pit road. Green flag back in the air. Doug Neal in the number 77 Simbox Chevy Silverado with his 971 teammate right back behind him, Nathan Maurer. Those two trucks go blasting off into turn number 1. Martin Plute, Randy Perdue did not make it back out onto the racetrack, so I believe their nights are indeed done here as we have completed 31 laps, working lap number 32 here. The truck's getting wound up to about 185 miles an hour. Answered Stay Tuned Sports question a little while ago. Sergeant Savage saying great moves, Jeff, as well as Mikey Williams. Mikey up there side by side for the race lead here at Daytona International Speedway, a rookie here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Trying to get around the outside of those two Simbox trucks. Of course, a Simbox button box on the line here tonight. And Drew, you know, Doug Neal runs Simbox. And if Doug Neal wins this race, does he give himself a button box?
I mean, I would imagine that. I mean, that's the trophy. You know, if you're the owner of Rolex and you win the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, I think you would give yourself a Rolex. No, I mean, that's kind of how I would look at it. So yeah, I mean, if I were Doug Neal, I'd give myself a button box. But
oh man, Drew, that was almost big. Mikey Williams almost turned up into the outside wall. Sorry to interrupt there, but that could have been a big moment right there at the front of the field. But the field able to gather it all back up. We stay green flag and all these trucks staying all glued up together.
Yeah, Peter, and one thing that's kind of interesting now is there's only 12 trucks in this lead pack now. Matt Cherry's about 3.8 seconds. We'll see when that cycles through exactly where that is. Yeah, I mean, now 8.5, so he's way out of it. So unless there's another caution, which, I mean, hey, we just saw there might be, right, between the 32 and the 77. But really, there's a battle for just to stay out of those last two spots, which are currently occupied by Randy Bledsoe and David Buell. And so I think that those guys are going to be making some fairly dramatic moves because there's just nothing for them to risk. If they crash out, they miss the final stage. If they finish where they are, they miss the final stage. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. The number one of Jason Grossi has quite a bit of front end damage on that Bagcraft Toyota Tundra. And then, of course, Chris Darling, we looked at his right front. It is certainly not clean. So the number one, I noticed that last time wasn't particularly close to the 971 in front of him. I wonder if he's struggling to close up a little bit, as now we're looking at Matt Cherry in that number S machine. Of course, the 54 on timing and scoring number S on the actual truck itself. And yeah, he is about 6 seconds a lap slower than these trucks out front. Probably, Peter, I mean, just hoping for a wreck, right? Like, that's what he's out there hoping for, is that 2 trucks or 3 trucks get involved in a wreck, and then he's able to get by them. But good for him. I think, I don't know if I would be down to run 6 seconds a lap slower than the field, as, yeah, these guys are getting more and more aggressive as we close in on the end of the second stage.
Yeah, good look at that damage on the hood of the number one Toyota of Jason Grossi. It's Tristan Thuggy Maher, of course, the 17 and the number one. We saw them working together earlier in the pre-race show, in the practice session. We know those are 2 buddies. We know they can start working together. We know the 2 Simbox trucks are up there. It seems like Mikey Williams as well as Jeff Clifton might be able to work together as well. But then you got a couple of drivers back there who are just hungry. Stan Hausman, one of those, the 52 machine. David Buell, another one. Randy Bledsoe, our stage 1 winner here. Drew is in danger in the 12th position. We'll need to pick it up, gain a couple of extra spots here as the lap count winds down. 24 laps to go. And Doug Neal up at the front of the field just got completely sideways off towards turn number 1. The inside line had to completely get out of the gas, and that is going to really help that outside line. It's allowed Mikey Williams to actually get to the race lead. He dropped to the bottom side of the racetrack, and here comes Chris Darling with a big push on the outside line from Tristan Thuggy Maher. That inside line was just not formed up. Mikey Williams went down to the bottom side to try and pick up Doug Neal, and that has allowed the 11 of Chris Darling to pole vault his way up to the race lead, at least momentarily, because the inside line finally able to gather things back up here almost a lap later from when we saw the 77 completely sideways. In fact, that's broken up the 2 Simbox trucks as the number 15 has a moment there with a little bit of connection issues on the inside. We have 3 laps to the end of stage number 2, and I have no idea what the checkered flag of stage number 2 is going to bring.
Yeah, and now that the 11's out front with that right front damage, it's going to be interesting to see if he can keep up or not. The 32 on the apron. Is he going to be able to rejoin? The 11 gets involved. Then that's going to be a wreck on the back stretches. They continue to wreck, as there's going to be some significant contact to the outside wall, and there absolutely is, as the number 32 has some significant damage, as does quite a few other trucks. And there we go, Peter. We were wondering how spicy things were going to get at the end of the stage. And the stage, by the way, folks, is not over, as now we'll try to figure out exactly what happened. We know the 32 right there, a little bit of a bad bump from that 77 kind of sent him down onto the bottom of the track. But that's not even what caused it. It was between the 17 and the 11. And now the 17 gets shot down the track, as does the 11 of Chris Darling. And really, that's what causes this big incident. It's kind of shocking that the 32 getting sent down there had nothing to do with it. And then even more contact between the 15 and I believe the 971 and Nathan Maurer. And I think this is where these really big hits are going to come in, and who all else is involved. The 51 gets a huge hit. The 52 gets a huge hit. I think the 11 of Chris Darling has a blown motor right there. Potentially, yeah, there's a lot of smoke pouring out from under the hood of that number 11 machine. And Peter, that's 6-7 trucks involved in that wreck.
Yeah, and this is going to be one that we're going to take us a little bit to sort out, because it's kind of one thing led to another. I think in the end, maybe the biggest thing was maybe the 971 checked up. Randy Bledsoe bumped him from behind. This is a really tough one to call. Let's see if we can get kind of a look on board here with the number 81 of Randy Bledsoe. This will give us a indication of everything that kind of all went down. Yeah, that's, I think, a little bit of a bump to the 971. Oh, clean track in front of him after that. But let's see if we can figure out what happened to cause Chris Darling to go around. Here we go, on board with Tristan Thuggy Maher. And I don't know if Chris Darling just went up to the top side of the racetrack, maybe, Drew, to think about avoiding the accident, and then came back down and turned himself. That's a kind of a tough thing to say. Let's see if we can get maybe another look at this from another angle. Looking for the 3-wide TV chopper cam. There we go. Let's see if we can see. Oh, that's just a little bit past it. Let's see if we can go back maybe just a little bit here and put it in the 3-wide TV slow motion. So there goes Mikey Williams. And believe it or not, Drew, what happened to Mikey Williams was probably one of the more safe things to have happened. He went down there on one side of the racetrack. There was that initial contact. Then the 11 comes down, and I think Mikey Williams, he got a piece of it there. Ends up spinning around, but Maher getting good shot there, getting one wheel off the ground. Of course, this is in the slow motion. Getting another little lick there, and again, a lot of tore up race trucks here in this second big accident of the night.
Yeah, I mean, so I went back and watched it myself, and I think what happens is so there's contact right there. I think the 17 right there just hooks the rear bumper of the 11 into the outside wall. Chris Darling bounces off that outside wall into the 17 again, and that's what I mentioned earlier, is that lateral difference in speed. It doesn't have to be a lot, but that 17 is just moving towards the bottom of the racetrack just a little bit when he gets into the back of Chris Darling, and that sends that 11 right into the outside wall right there. And then there's just, you're going to bounce off the wall pretty aggressively, and then just people are checking up while others aren't, and then that's what kind of causes the rest of the chain collision accidents that kind of happen right there. And it can just happen that quickly, Peter. I don't really think that was, I think that honestly, with the 32, that's probably the best thing that kind of could have happened to him. I think had he been closer up to the wreck, there probably would have been some more damage that he would have received from impacts. He probably would have been thrown back into the field. So honestly, I mean, maybe getting thrown down there towards the apron might have helped him a little bit, if anything, because I think that he and the 17 probably were, of the trucks involved, probably on the best end of the damage spectrum, as guys like Chris Darling are still on pit lane. But one thing I'm questioning, Peter, is the guys that have been on pit lane this whole time, if they come back out and catch the field before the green flag, will they stay on the lead lap?
Yes. I believe if you get lapped on pit road, but then get out before the green flag comes out, you do not lose your lap just because of laps not counting under the caution flag. So it does allow you a little bit extra time to get your truck repaired. 971 of Nathan Maurer has taken some of that time. David Buell also has taken a lot of time on pit road, almost a minute and a half in his pit stall. Chris Darling in the number 11, we think his night is done. Adam Lichty, I believe his night will be done. Mikey Williams, we'll see whether Mikey comes back out there on the racetrack. That's a little bit questionable. Randy Perdue in the number 25 and Martin Plout, they called it a night a little while ago. Jeff Clifton has taken the number 15 truck off of the racetrack, but these drivers who are on pit road, they have to get back out there in a hurry, because right now you can see the lead pack. It has dwindled now down to just 7 trucks. Doug Neal is your race leader. We have a couple of drivers, I think, trying to hustle their way back up to the front pack. Nathan Maurer and the number 52 being those. But as they flash on my, just 9 trucks racing for 10 positions. Drew, I think these drivers just need to survive for the next 2 laps. At the end of stage number 2, we will have another inversion, and the field will be inverted. Somehow someone's going to have to give Chris Darling like 5 lucky dogs, because if he wants to be the race leader, because technically he's in the 10th position as they run right now. I don't think they're going to do that, folks. I think it's going to be a 9-truck inversion here. But Jason Gracias in the number 1 machine, he wants to take the Bagcraft Toyota to the front. We were talking about the damage on the front of that Toyota a little while ago. Well, now it's looking pretty much par for the course, as I don't think we have a single truck, folks. Maybe Stan Hausman in the BeerStreetJournal.com Ford F-150. Maybe he's got a clean truck. Maybe the number 29. No, I think there's a little bit of front damage on the number 29 machine. But could we be looking at, Drew, Stan Hausman with a clean truck being our favorite here for the final stage in a little while?
Yeah, I mean, he's done a great job of keeping it clean out there where, and honestly, he's been kind of in the eye of the tempest for the majority of the night. While wrecks have been going on all around him, the 39 of Stan Hausman has done a fantastic job in getting around him and avoiding those wrecks, and now sitting in P2 with, at least as clean of a truck as exists, if not completely clean, is that number 39 machine. Is now Jason Gracias makes a move to the inside. What? It doesn't matter. Stage is over. And yeah, I'm kind of interested, Peter. The 11 of Chris Darling technically finished 10th, and according to the rules, the top 10 make it into the final stage. So we'll see how the admin team decides how that'll work. But Jason Gracias with the stage 2 victory, of course, that will put that number 1 machine in last position. Now the question is who will start the beginning of stage 3 in first. Most likely the 52, is I don't think that 11 is going to be on track anytime soon. But another field inversion, Peter. And if this final stage is anything like these first 2, I think we are certainly going to see sparks and fireworks and all those proverbial action words, as about 9 trucks will probably see these last 20 laps.
Yeah, likely chaos with the remaining 9 trucks out there. Taz Strip in the chat saying, imagine the 77 winning doesn't have to give up a box. And yeah, we were talking about that just a little while ago. Stay Tuned Sports saying, don't forget to like the video, everyone. Thank you for that. Stay Tuned Sports. If you have not liked the video here tonight, if you have not watched us here on 3 Wide TV before, also make sure to hit that subscribe video, because we will be bringing you live flag-to-flag action all season long here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series in the National Sim Racing Association, including the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast 300 2 weeks from tonight. And how about Stay Tuned Sports Podcast? There's a link to them in the description. In fact, there's a link to all of the series sponsors this season here in the National Sim Racing Association. Of course, Simbox being one of those, Stay Tuned Sports being another, MaxGrafix.co. Go check them out. Link in the description. Brookstone Animal Hospital, our sponsor of our Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. BrookstoneVet.com, Taz Racing Customs, Facebook.com/Taz Racing Customs for custom diecast needs, BeerStreetJournal.com, Eclipse Photography, JNR Craftworks, cool link. I checked out JNR Craftworks yesterday, and they have some really cool custom stuff. If you're looking for a custom gift or something to customize your house, JNR Craftworks is the place to go. JNRCraftworks.com. So some new faces in terms of sponsors this season in the National Sim Racing Association. Make sure you check them out if you have not already. As the field heads down onto pit road, they will be manually inverting themselves here in just a moment. So once they've got their 4 fresh tires, you can see some damage getting repaired on the number 1 of Jason Gracias' machine. We'll see if some of these other trucks are sticking around to get some damage repaired. That actually might make things a little bit difficult here, Drew, because the trucks that were at the back of the pack are probably the ones that are going to use this opportunity to get some damage repaired. They're not going to want to leave the pits. That's just how iRacing handles inversions. But Nathan Maurer looks like he's starting to get rolling, as is the number 52 machine there. Number 52, David Buell, out there on the racetrack. There goes the number S of Matt Cherry, still sticking around. And the rest of the trucks will get rolling in due time. Let's see if we can check out the Discord here. Let's, in fact, see if we can talk to one of those drivers who was previously involved in an accident And let's see if we can talk to Chris Darling. In fact, it looks like, Drew, that was already on your mind as well. I just saw your message here, and so that's perfect. We're in sync as well as we tend to be here on 3Y TV. Drew, why don't you take it away with driver of the number 11 machine?
Hey, Chris Darling, Drew Eisman up here in the 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
I got you. What's going on, guys?
Well, certainly a lot of action here tonight for the amount of trucks on track. But, I mean, I think what everybody's wondering is that big wreck there towards the end of Stage 2. What happened?
Oh, man. I'm not really 100% sure. I sort of have like an inkling of what happened. Me and Tristan were like really moving up on that high side, and we saw the two guys in the low line have a little trouble, and I don't know if it was because of the damage I had on my rear end or if it was just a weird netcode thing, but he never touched me. Like, I never got any notice that he touched me, and I thought I had just gotten loose on the backstretch, which sounds really stupid, but I guess he thinks that maybe there was like some netcode, and it just put me in the wall. But I don't know. I tried the best I could to keep it off everybody, but once you hit that wall, it's kind of like, I don't know. I probably could have just pulled it right, and I just didn't think fast enough, so that was on me.
And I mean, yeah, it's always in hindsight, right? I could have done this, I could have done that, but ultimately, I mean, when you're crashing, you're crashing. But with these this rebuild of the trucks in iRacing, have you noticed any difference in the draft package here tonight?
I haven't really noticed anything. Maybe a little bigger runs, but like that might just be the setup or whatever's going on, but I don't think it's any different. I think they just look cooler now.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly do. And, a bunch of cool schemes out there tonight. Is there anything that you can really take away from what you experienced tonight during the race that you can apply towards the 250 here in a couple weeks?
Oh, definitely. I think that high line is probably going to be the place to be. I mean, the bottom line just felt so bottled up all night. Even if you were up near the front, like it just didn't have the same speed. It just seemed like the top line always had the run. So, I mean, you might just want to stay up high and try to ride it out, see if you can lead the high lane the whole time.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the 250 when we have a bunch more laps. We're here with one to go. But hey, Chris, thanks for stopping by with us tonight, and good luck next week, and then in the 250 the week after.
Hey, thanks. I'll come up and chat at any time you guys need me up here or want me up here.
Sounds good, Chris. Thanks.
All right. Well, Drew, like you mentioned, we are now at that one to go signal. So the start of the final stage is upcoming. 20 laps between now and the checkered flag. I was expecting this race to actually kind of fly by, but we've had a couple of caution flags. Of course, caution laps not counting here tonight, and those have greatly slowed down the running of the Simbox shootout, but eyes are on the prize. 9 trucks still left in the field, trying to get that Simbox button box. 2 trucks are Simbox trucks for the 971 and Nathan Maurer leading us back to green. The number 81, that of course is Randy Bledsoe, was our stage 1 winner earlier in the show before getting some damage, as that number 81 truck still have a lot of pace. Matt Cherry's been involved in an accident, the number 29 machine of Adam Newton. We haven't talked a whole lot about that Budweiser number 29. We've seen him be fast here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. What can he do as the green flag waves? Stage number 3 is underway here tonight for the Simbox button box, and already the 971 and Nathan Maurer are going to cut up to the high side to try and block Randy Bledsoe. I don't blame him. That high line much better formed up already than that low line, with Matt Cherry having to fall back to the number 17 of Tristan Thuggy Maher. But here comes the Eclipse Photography number 17.
Yeah, and I think now, Peter, more than at any point during the race, is 3 wide down the backstretch between the 29.5 and 81. And the 29 now taking it 3 wide for the race lead. I was just about to say that I think track position is at an absolute premium when there's fewer trucks in a pack. The momentum is going to be reduced. The shifts in speed and the ability to close up on the truck in front of you are going to be reduced just because there's less energy available because there's less trucks. And we just saw that 29 take absolute advantage of it. And now that Adam Newton truck is right up towards the front, with Randy Bledsoe also kind of following him up there into second position, with now Stan Houseman in third, and a really kind of complete shuffle up there of those front trucks. You know, the 971, the 77, and the S machine were all up front battling each other. Is now the number 81 of Randy Bledsoe making a move to the outside of of Adam Newton. My apologies, Adam Newton in that 29 machine. And Peter, I think we're seeing what Chris Darling just kind of spoke to, is that, ooh, 3 wide once again, Stan Houseman to the outside of Randy Bledsoe, is that bottom lane does certainly appear to be kind of bottled up momentum-wise, and that outside lane could just get massive runs.
Outside line can get massive runs. That was a gutsy move there by the number 39 machine of Stan Houseman. David Buell in the number 52 machine has taken it to the pit lane. Might be calling it a night, so we might be down now, Drew, to just 8 trucks out there battling it out for the final 17 laps. So just 2 trucks short of what we were expecting to see at this present moment in time. But how about Adam Newton in that number 29 machine? Has not led a lap until the final stage. That is textbook of what you want to do here on these super speedway races, I would say. All of a sudden, be 90% of the race completely obscure, but when it matters, get your way up to the front. Keep that truck as clean as you can. Stay out of all the scuffles, and Adam Newton pretty much has. That's a good-looking number 29 machine. Don't see a whole lot of damage on it, if any damage at all. And the number 39, Stan Houseman, we've already highlighted that his Ford F-150 is nice and clean. So a couple of clean trucks right now leading the inside and outside lanes. As the outside lane finally able to form back up, Matt Cherry now trying to get behind the number 39 of Stan Houseman to try and propel him to the race lead. 5 trucks on the inside line versus 3 on the outside.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if those 3 trucks on that outside line can maintain momentum, as we are now coming to 15 to go here once we complete lap 45, as the 17 of the 29 holding steady on the bottom. But Stan Houseman in that number 5 machine of number S machine of Matt Cherry, followed by the number 81 of Randy Bledsoe, holding that outside lane. Well, then that's interesting, Peter, is the 971 and the 77 not going with that outside lane. I would kind of think that when you're one of those kind of two-tailing trucks, that maybe you would try to get some big momentum runs going on and kind of just honestly try to provoke some hard racing going on towards the front of the pack. But those guys just kind of holding steady. And once those 3 wide maneuvers kind of panned out, Peter, one thing I've noticed is maybe these guys are just kind of letting, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even 10 laps go by before they start to mix it up, because there's still 15 laps to go here. So it's not like these guys are imminently going to cross the start-finish line, because we're just seeing a little bit more space between the trucks, some more gaps in between them. That also, quite frankly, Peter, might be because of the damage that quite a few of these trucks have, and they're just maybe struggling a little bit to keep up. But things calm down a little bit for now, but I don't think that'll stay for very long.
Yeah, things might, like you said, be calming down for just a moment. As I say that, they start to fan out on the backstretch. 14 laps to go. If you're one of these drivers, Drew, where do you think you want to put yourself at 5 laps to go? Would you want to be where Stan Houseman is right now, and that is out front of the field, or do you think the driver 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th position with 5 laps to go, you think you want to be back there and try and pick a run? We've seen these runs be quite strong where the truck 4th or 5th is able to almost draw level with the lead if they get enough help.
Where I don't want to be is where that 81 is right now, which is in the middle, 3 wide. I want to be leading a groove, whether that's the inside or the outside. It didn't quite work out for the 81 machine. I thought he was going to be, I was literally about to say, I like where the 81's at leading that outside lane, because I think that outside lane gets so much momentum off of 4 that I just don't really see a way that the inside lane can probably hold off the outside coming to the checkered flag as we see the 29 just pull a little bit on the 39 machine. That's kind of what I expect from that outside lane. So, I mean, I want to be on the outside lane if I'm alongside the leader. Otherwise, I just don't want to, especially, I don't want to be the second or third truck on the bottom lane is essentially where I don't want to be. Because there's just nowhere for you to go. I like that outside group. The 971 and Nathan Maurer.
Contact in the back. Nathan Maurer going around in the 971 machine. And that will bring out the caution flag. It looked like the two Simbox teammates might have tangled here. Let's see if we can get another look and see if it was the 971 and the 77 having a little bit of a tangle. Oh, no, a little bit of net code or a little bit of bumping in the corner, kind of side bumping, not side drafting, but side bumping between, looked like the 81 and the 971, causing that to come out. Let's see if we can get maybe another look at it here. Oh, that's not another look at it. There we go. This will show exactly what happened. Throw it into the 3-wide TV slow-mo. The 81's coming up a little bit. I think the 971's going down a little bit. They collide, make contact, then the Simbox teammates kind of tangle with one another. I think Doug Neal might have caught the outside wall as well. In fact, he might come out the big loser of all this, although like Tristan Thuggy Maher also got a big lick there in the Eclipse Photography, and flirting with that inside wall as well. We can see this whole incident happen from on board with the 971 machine right there. He has a good job, or does a good job, I should say, of getting it to lock down and trying to minimize that particular incident. Let's see if we can go back. Let's go on board here with Tristan Thuggy Maher. That's what I wanted to do. And see, he does a good job getting down the low side of the racetrack there, Drew. Unfortunately, that's exactly where Nathan Maurer ended up.
Yeah, and when you're on that bottom lane, there's limited options when there's a wreck as well. You can't go up very far, and if you go down, you're going to get on the apron. You're going to go right back up because of good old physics. But there's just not a lot to do. Luckily, with this the way these cautions work, Peter, is you do have the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time on pit road and fix those trucks up. As now, I mean, that's essentially what everybody's doing that's on pit road, right? You don't necessarily need to pit for tires or anything like that. These guys are just purely getting more of that damage fixed, and they'll be back out there. As still 12 to go. That's one thing that these cautions really do a great job of, is preserving the amount of laps left. 60 laps on paper is a really short race here at Daytona, but when you're saving 3 or 4 laps every caution, that 60 laps probably has turned closer to 70, 75 laps, if not more than that here tonight. And so that gives these guys, when you're not counting those laps, I mean, they can just stay on pit road the entire time the caution's out, because they're not losing a lap. And so I think that's going to allow guys like Jason Gracias and some of the other trucks that have been involved in incidents throughout the night to be able to get their machines fixed up fairly well. But I don't think the 17 is, at some point, Peter, the amount of damage that you incur on the track, it doesn't matter how long you spend on pit road, you're not going to make the thing competitive anymore. And with the amount of damage that 17 has taken throughout the night, he's been involved now in 2 significant incidents on track. It's not a great thing here, especially at Daytona, to kind of have that amount of damage. But the truck that we're looking at right now has been a guy who's done a fantastic job of keeping that truck clean. That's Adam Newton. I mean, he's we said it before, but he's as clean of a truck as is out there. I can't find a scratch on that number 29. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but maybe a little bit of front end, but certainly a clean truck relative to his competition.
And you did see there just briefly out of the corner of the screen, the number 17, Tristan Thuggy Maher, the Eclipse Photography machine getting back out there onto the racing surface. Nathan Maurer also hustling to get caught up to the back of the field for this upcoming green flag. So there's Maurer, there's Tristan Thuggy Maher. Both of those two drivers severe damage and able to get as much fixed as possible on pit lane here just a moment ago as we close in on tonight's finale here in the Simbox shootout. It will be a 10-lap shootout. And 10-lap shootout, Drew, you gotta say, there's something just special about saying a 10-lap shootout at Daytona, or 11-lap shootout. As the live timing and scoring starts to sort itself out here. So it'll be 11-lap shootout. That takes away everything I was going to say about something magical about a 10-lap shootout at Daytona. Maybe I'll say that in a lap from now. But 11 laps when we go back green here in just a moment. Going to be a lot of fun to see which of these drivers have really endured. It's like the 24 hours of Daytona here tonight at in the Simbox shootout. But green flag waves once again. Adam Newton in that number 29 machine gets us to the start-finish line first with the number 39 of Stan Houseman alongside him. Just 6 trucks in this front pack as Nathan Maurer and Tristan Maher are not able to catch the front pack. We're down to 6, Drew.
6 trucks with 11 laps to go. Yeah, we have had a battle of attrition here tonight. I mean, this doesn't have sports cars. Doesn't have anything on this. You know, when you think of the 24 hours of Le Mans, 24 hours of Daytona, 24 hours of Spa, Nürburgring, you think of a battle of attrition. But tonight has been certainly kind of one of those contests. It's, can you make it to the tail end of this race? Is now coming to 10 to go with Stan Houseman on that bottom lane. But I'm really impressed. Oh, the 81 gets sideways right on the door of the 29 of Adam Newton was Randy Bledsoe right there. And that's just kind of how quickly these incidents have developed here tonight, Peter. It just seems like these trucks have been incredibly unforgiving with that contact, those bump drafts that are just a little too aggressive. There's not a lot of play that iRacing's letting these drivers have here tonight, but can that outside lane keep the momentum up with only 2 trucks out there? We have 10 laps to figure that out.
9.5 laps left as we head down the backstretch. There's number 29 machine hitting that yellow line just a little bit. We're looking out back of your race leader, Stan Houseman. And Drew, I was, with 10 trucks, I felt like we were going to have some really good, strong racing. With 6, things start to get a little bit more difficult to make a pass. You were talking about energy that you have in these groups. And I think with 10, you have enough. With 6, it gets more difficult. Let's watch that outside line. The number 81, up there, Randy Bledsoe, winner of stage number 1. Now does get a really good run here down the backstretch. In fact, we're going to be side by side for the race lead. Stage 1 winner wants to win stage 3. He's gone from the front to the back. Now back up to the front, because remember, Drew, we were at one point talking about that number 81 being in danger of even making it through to round number 3. Was able to do so and was battling for the race lead. Now no longer, as he's been shuffled back to 3rd or 4th.
Well, I mean, let's not forget that our race leader, Stan Houseman, barely made it through the first stage. Had that move with 2 laps to go to get himself out of the danger zone, and then was not far from the danger zone there until that wreck happened towards the tail end of stage 2. And now that 39 machine finding himself leading this race. So just how fortunes have turned here tonight. It's been really dramatic because, oh man, coming out of these corners, these trucks seem remarkably unstable as the number 1 and 81 shoving each other down the backstretch, moving side to side, which has certainly been a contributor to those incidents here tonight, as Jason Grossi is doing everything that he can to shove the 81 up there, but it's just not really working for those 2 trucks as Stan Houseman continues to lead this pack. And if I'm Adam Newton, I'm really content right now, right? I want that top lane to fall apart, because I'm just kind of biding my time. Now, if I'm the number 5 machine or the 77, or, I mean, obviously those trucks out front, I don't want that to happen. Well, Adam Newton, he was kind of looking to that outside, but I don't think he's going to be able to make a move now, as that number 81 is to his right side down the backstretch. But what those guys on the inside, they want that outside lane to fall apart. They want this to go to single file because that gives them so many more options to make moves as this race winds down. But the 81, the number one, not giving up on that outside lane.
Definitely not giving up on that outside lane, hoping to get maybe one or two other trucks go up there to join him. But Adam Newton right now in that number 29 is staying steadfast to the back bumper of the number 39 of Stan Houseman. The 39 and 29 working together, and then the number 5, number 54, number S, whatever you want to call it. Yes, I know S is a letter. Don't question that. But he told me it was the number S because it looks very much like a S on the side. And of course, it is the STS podcast truck with Jimbo on the hood. Got Jim in the chat. Jim, hope to see you out here on the racetrack here very soon. S for success is what Jimbo in the chat says. But hopefully we can see you out there on the racetrack with all the success. He said he pulled the cable from the PC because he saw everyone was driving, and like, I didn't want to embarrass these guys because your game plan was going to plan. Well, Jim, hopefully we see you next week here on 3Y TV in the Daytona duels. Very much looking forward to Jim making his debut here on the big time on 3Y TV, because we're going to have to get Jim's thoughts every race, as he's new to iRacing and relatively new to the iRacing service and sim racing in general. And of course, great to have him as the longtime sponsor now. I think I can say that of the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. We come down now, 4 laps to go this time. Still Stan Houseman is your race leader. The outside line, still just 2 trucks. That is Randy Perdue and Jason Gracias in the number 1 machine back there. Has a little bit of damage on the hood. Then Doug Neal back there, the number 77. Drew Dank, don't count out the number 77. I know the 77 number is special to you. That's the sim number that you run. So probably in the back of your mind, you're rooting on that number 77 back there. But meanwhile, here comes Adam Newton, the number 29 up at the front of the field. He says, you know what? It's been 2 trucks on the inside, 2 trucks on the outside line for too long. He jumps to the outside and just like that, shoots himself to the race lead as these trucks start to shuffle once more. What's Stan Houseman going to do? He's got a good run. He's going to jump to the high side as we're coming to just 3 laps to go. A little bit of contact between the 29 and the 39. Here they come to the line. Now 3 trucks and 3 trucks. Top to bottom. That's contact. The 39's in the inside wall. Adam Newton going with him. And the 2 trucks, Drew, that had no damage are now junked up here. We're under caution at Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, when the 29 made that block, I couldn't believe that they didn't wreck right there. And then we'll see what happens through the tri-volts at the very end. Is there more netcode that happens here? Because they're not very close. Does the 81 just... Yeah, the 30... yeah, I mean, that looks so similar to the way that the number 11 kind of made that weird move. And, there's just nowhere for either of those trucks to go. I think if they crashed a 1/10 of a second later, they probably avoid the inside wall because the way it kicks out right there. Now, does the 81 get into the 39? He's closing. Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, I think the 81 gets into him right there, and then boom, into the inside wall goes Stan Houseman and the number 29, and both of those trucks, as you mentioned, Peter, with a substantial amount of damage. And so what was 6 trucks, I think is probably 4 now, depending on how much damage those 2 have. And you see the 81 close up right there, and that, I think that just shows how on edge these trucks are when you just don't quite hit them flush, that it just sends them sideways. And that's the second time we've seen that here tonight.
So unfortunately for some of our drivers who just a few laps ago were looking like they had a good shot of winning this race, like Adam Newton, it is now pretty much all but a dream to win this race. Everyone else is going to have to have a junked up race truck. Randy Bledsoe is going to drop to the tail end of the line I think, for causing that incident. He was deemed at fault. There's Stan Hausman in the number 39 Beer Street Journal machine. Tough break. I know Stan Hausman, Drew, is a fan favorite here. He's a driver favorite. The drivers really enjoy racing around Stan Hausman. He's a gentleman driver. If I've ever seen one here in the National Sim Racing Association, it's win at Talladega a couple of years ago, or seasons ago, I should say, was very popular amongst our watchers here on 3Y TV. Looks like Stan's going to get back out there into the mix, but that is quite a bit of damage. Don't expect that thing to be exactly up to speed, especially with how hard he hit that inside wall, but iRacing has surprised me before with damage. As Chris Darling says, I want this win for Stan so bad. He deserves one. I'm not sure, Chris, if you said that after the accident, but if you didn't, we can all point our fingers now and say Chris Darling jinxed Stan Hausman. That is a real tough break. I was just talking about how he is a fan favorite. He's a driver favorite, and Chris Darling confirming that in the chat. So unfortunately, the number 39 has damage. Gets back out there. We'll see what he can do. Meanwhile, there is currently the 4 drivers still out there on the racetrack that were not involved in this accident. Matt Cherry leads. The number 1, Jason Gracias in second, Doug Neal in third, and Randy Bledsoe in fourth. Drew, we might be down to 4 trucks if Stan Hausman's off the pace. We'll have a 3-lap shootout here in just a moment. It is going to be pretty wild, I think, between 4 trucks. Not a lot of energy. These drivers really going to have to try and lay back and get a run.
Yeah, and I think that kind of that trail braking that sometimes goes on at super speedways for guys to try to get runs, I think that's the only way that if you're that second truck in line, and I mean, if you're on the bottom, there's just not a lot you can do. You got to hope that guys kind of get racing in front of you and you make a move. But it's, momentum's going to be at a premium. I think that if you're that outside truck there on the last lap, you're going to try to drag your brake, probably try to push the truck in front of you up to clear that truck on the inside and then try to make a move if there's enough time. But it's just going to be so difficult to get anything else kind of going. Unless you time that absolutely perfectly, it's going to be hard to get anything else going. Hopefully this 971 is not Stan Hausman, rather, that's the 39 machine, but a Nathan Maurer, of course, in the 971. Hopefully he's got that thing fixed up enough to where he can provide some extra momentum, because if you get 5 trucks in this lead pack, now you have that odd number. Now you provide that uneven momentum, which can help us see some pretty good runs going on. But with 4 trucks, it's going to be really hard to make a move. But I mean, again, there's not a lot at risk here tonight, but there's a whole lot to gain here by grabbing that checkered flag.
It is checkers or wreckers, and with the checkers comes a Simbox button box. If you're just now joining us here on 3Y TV, it has been a race of attrition. 125 miles, 60 laps, and we're down now to just the 5 trucks that you have on your screen. It looks like the number 971 is in the mix as well. Nathan Maurer, who, Drew, Nathan came down pit road, got a lot of damage fixed, needs a Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award, is not on the lead lap at this moment in time. It's currently sitting 1 lap down. So if we get another caution, we can hand out one of those Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Awards. In fact, he might have got one of those Brookstone Animal Hospital Awards Lucky Dogs under this pass caution. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't realize he was still running, to be perfectly honest with everyone at back home watching. But we got a restart here, and the number S of Matt Cherry is your race leader. But here comes Jason Gracias getting up through the gears really well, Drew. A little bit of side drafting off that number 1 machine. I was thinking he might be able to clear Matt Cherry, not able to do so. He's going to slide back behind Doug Neal. Remember, 2 laps to go. It's the Simbox shootout. Can Doug Neal win this race in his own sponsored event? Looks like the number 81, Randy Bledsoe, having some connection problems back there. The 971 dropping off the back. Stan Hausman not able to catch the back of the field. He's going to need a caution flag, and need a caution flag here very quickly, because the white flag is about to come out here as they round through turn number 3 and 4.
Yeah, can that outside lane get any momentum? Can the one in the 81 hook up? Can the 81 stay connected to the race server? We are going to find out here on the last lap. The number 1, Jason Gracias, certainly making a move to the high lane as that 81 keeps blinking in and out of the race server, but it's providing just enough momentum for that number 1 to hang tough on the outside lane. What can that number 77 do? Here comes Jason Gracias running right to the door of Doug Neal as we get on to the backstretch. Big momentum on that high lane.
Big momentum on the high lane. Matt Cherry now trying to stay tough on the inside line, but look at Randy Bledsoe giving a shot to the back bumper of that number 1 machine as we head into turn number 3 and 4 for the final time. Contact! Matt Cherry's out of it. Everyone's out of it, but Jason Gracias. Gracias in the number 1 machine all alone. Nobody anywhere close. Jason Gracias could almost put it in coast here as we come to the line. Checkered flag is out. Gracias wins. Neal in second. Matt Cherry's going to limp home in third. Stan Houseman going to come around in the 4th position. And 5th spot's going to go to Randy Bledsoe here tonight. What a crazy race. Kind of par for the course with the way tonight went. Drew, it was wreckers or checkers or wreckers, although one might argue it was more wreckers than checkers here tonight. Whichever way you put it, this man right here gets himself a Simbox button box and a W here in the Simbox Shootout.
Yeah, I mean, new season, but same old faces in victory lane. Jason Gracias carrying that momentum from last season into tonight. I mean, a chaotic race from start to finish, and that last lap kind of epitomized what we've seen here tonight, which is guys giving it everything they've got, and ultimately the guy that had the most was Jason Gracias, taking the first checkered flag for the NSRA Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series here in the 2022 season.
Gets to do those sweet burnouts here on the front stretch there in the Daytona grass, and now has an opportunity to try and sweep the speed weeks here in the National Sim Racing Association, with next week being the pole shootout and the duels, and then of course the big one the week after that, when that one is 300 miles, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more patience in that particular event as Gracias burns it down here on the front stretch. Gonna be one very happy camper at the end of the night. We will get to talk to our top 3 finishers. That's going to be fun to hear what some of these drivers had to say at the end of the night. Just making sure we can get all of them here into the 3-wide TV interview booth here in just a moment as Jason Gracias tries to find his way to victory lane, but iRacing throws good old invisible walls that you run into. And so the racetrack falls silent, but we got those post-race interviews here for you. Let's start with tonight's 3rd place finisher, involved in an accident there, driver of the number S, Matt, and you're going to have to tell us a little bit about the number S. You messaged me here earlier and said, make sure it's the number S and not the number 5. But a wild night here at Daytona. You were involved in a wreck mid-race. I know that Jimbo in the chat thought maybe your race was over at that point. You came roaring back. Had a shot there at the end, but contact was the name of the game here tonight at Daytona. Walk us through your night and how those last laps played out.
Yeah, we got caught up in that wreck early on, and I thought it was over too. We only had like 2 minutes of damage, and I kept getting it fixed. I couldn't do much out front by myself unless I had somebody behind me, but luckily we got it all fixed, and we were able to get up there and give them a run for their money.
Yeah, you definitely gave them a run for your money. Some of those other trucks around you had damage. Do you think that helped you there late in the race? Do you think that kind of evened the playing field? I know we saw Stan Houseman in the number 29 of Adam Newton. They were both very fast until being involved in a big accident there late for the final caution flag. But do you think the fact that pretty much everyone else had damage leveled that playing field enough for that number S machine here tonight?
Yeah, the damage definitely played a factor. You know, like Stan, he didn't have much damage on his truck when he was out in front of me. I was able to keep him out there, but if I would have been in front of him and him pushing me, he would have probably ended up spinning me around because I didn't have the aerodynamics to be out front.
Well, you probably would have. I know you would have tried to make a late move because that's what Matt Cherry does. You don't sit back, you go for the win. And going to be fun to see you here on 3 Wide TV. Go for those wins with Stay Tuned Sports on the hood. What races are you looking forward to this season, I should say? I know with Daytona, the big one 2 weeks from tonight. I know that's probably one that everyone has circled on their calendar.
Yeah, I mean, I've ran Daytona for the last couple of weeks now. I'm just kind of getting burnt out on it, but I'm getting better at these races. I know I struggled for the longest time there at these plate tracks, but I'm ready to get to the mile and a half and get business done.
Well, we have those on the schedule this season here in the National Sim Racing Association, that's for sure. Matt, before we let you go, anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to my sponsor, Stay Tuned. He tried qualifying into the race tonight, and unfortunately, he didn't make it due to some connection issues. But you know, he'll be there. It's just going to take him some time. He's new to it, and I'm going to try to help him as much as I can. But yeah, give a shout out to Chris and all them for everything they do. I mean, it's a pretty good league to run in, and I'd recommend people coming out and joining.
Well, Matt, it's a lot of fun watching and broadcasting up here in the 3Y TV booth as well. We'll see you next week for the pole shootout and the duels here at Daytona.
Yes, sir. Somebody needs to tell Chris to get this S off the side of my truck.
Well, he was in the chat here tonight calling it the number S as well, so I think he's a fan of it. So you'll have to get with him on that one. But that's it. That's going to do it with our third place interview here tonight with Matt Cherry. Now I think Drew Eisenman's caught up with his number 77 buddy there, Doug Neal.
Hey, Doug Neal, Drew Eisman up here in the 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
I got you, Drew. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm certainly entertained. Man, tell us about what you saw tonight, because we sure saw a lot.
Man, I don't know. At the first 20-lap segment, the 30 truck was just driving like a missile. I don't know what he was doing. He was bump drafting everybody, knocking everybody out of the way, and hitting in the corners and pushing the pusher, and I don't know. And then he washed up all 4 in that first segment, and I got up underneath him, and then he just came down and tried to force me down. He pushed me down below the yellow line. I don't know. I have no idea what was going on there. And so, I mean, I just turned right and give him a little help going around. I probably shouldn't tell you that, but I did. But other than that, that last wreck right there with me and Matt Cherry, I really apologize for that. I forgot. Randy was on the outside of me, and he was blinking pretty bad. And as we went into 3, he blinked, and when he blinked, he was trying to side draft, I think, and I kind of jerked the wheel. And when I came back up, I was kind of underneath Matt and hooked him and spun him out. Man, I felt really bad about that because I was trying to push him up there for the win. But all in all, it was kind of crazy out there. I got hung up a couple of times in accidents. I had 53 seconds one time, 35 another. But it was fun. I hate that there's only 4 trucks left at the end, though.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna kind of cheat a little bit. We asked one Mr. Chris Darling after his wreck what he could take away from tonight and apply that to the duels in the 250 here in a couple weeks. What can you take from tonight and apply to the next few weeks here at Daytona?
We're just gonna have to take our time and pace ourselves. We can't be running like we ran tonight. I know that for sure. Or there's gonna be a lot of trucks out early. I think there's some good competition in the league. All the new guys ran pretty well tonight. I think it should be pretty good.
And coming into a new season, we've seen you run really, really well at restrictor plates. We've seen you run really well at 1.5s throughout our time broadcasting NSRA. What are your expectations coming into the 2022 season?
I just want to focus on getting back in the playoffs again. I've been in here since day one of the league, and I've made the playoffs twice, and I feel like I'm better than that. I feel like I should make the playoffs every time, but things happen. It seems like usually I run good at the beginning of the season, middle of the season. I always get, for some reason, I'm always around the wrecks, or I get hung up in somebody's mess, or hell, I might even call somebody to come to the messes too. But I just got to stay focused, and that's my main goal right now, is just to have some good finishes and hopefully get an early win. That way, I don't have to worry about the rest of this. I can win my way in there. So hopefully, we'll see what happens.
Well, we look forward to seeing you wheel that number 77, hopefully into the playoffs. But before we let you go, Doug, let's hear those shout-outs.
Shout out to my teammates, Justin White, Nate Maurer, David Buell, and Adam Newton. We all made the final. Well, all but Justin. He had some internet issues, but 4 of us made the final 10 there. And so I'm looking forward to a good season with those guys. And my button box company, if anybody's looking for a button box, I'll be glad to help you out. You can just message me on Facebook at Simbox PC and check the page out over there on Simbox. And that's about it.
Well, all right. Thanks, Doug. We look forward to watching you wheel that Simbox machine throughout the season. Thanks for talking with us.
All right, buddy. Thank you, Drew. Have a good night.
You as well.
All right, thanks.
All right, folks, that's going to do it with our interview with the number 77 machine of Doug Neal, with that strong run here tonight to kick off his Speed Weeks here at Daytona International Speedway. But now it is time to go to Jason Gracias, who is in Victory Lane and is a new owner of a Simbox button box that Doug Neal was just plugging at facebook.com/SimboxPC. Jason, it was a wild one out there here tonight. The number one able to weather the storm and a half, get into Victory Lane. Talk us through your night.
Yeah, what a wild night. Hopefully it was exciting for you guys at home, because in this virtual Bagcraft race truck, it was hectic. Me, Thuggy, Thurston Maher, and Jason Shu tried to work together all race. We pitted together. We tried to get together in the outside line and try to control both lines, but it was just hard to pass there. Everyone was just playing defensive. So thankfully, the cards fell in my favor today. And shout out to Randy Bledsoe for trying to stick with me on that last lap, even though he was ping-ponging in and out the server. But we got lucky there, and we took this beautiful truck to Victory Lane. I'm pumped.
Yeah, great race here, and great way to get your Daytona underway with 2 races left for you. The next week, of course, we have the duels, and then after that, the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast 300 at Daytona. Kind of, what do you think your outlook is? What do you think your chances of sweeping Speed Weeks are like?
Very low. Daytona and Talladega are the great equalizers. So I'm just going to go out there, try to have fun. If you survive bumpy Daytona, you'll have a good spot to start the race on 2 weeks from now. So it's either I get the pole or just finish up top, or maybe I'll try it around the back and start last and see if I can do a last first challenge in 2 weeks. So we'll see. I'm just going to take it a race by race, see what happens.
Well, hopefully you have a little bit of fun mixed in here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series preseason and on to the regular season. Any particular standout races this season that you're looking forward to?
Just the usual suspects, going to Dover, Richmond, Fairgrounds, tracks that I enjoy going to because I somehow perform well there. Knockhill will be certainly interesting. From what I've seen, the track looks like a fun racetrack to go to. I'll try to hit as many races as I can this year. I know I actually have quite a bit of vacation scheduled throughout the summer, so I don't know if I'll make every single race or if I'll be playoff eligible this year. So I don't know if my chances of going back to back are are very high there or not, but I'll try to at least go back to back in one of the two series, whether it's GNS or the trucks. So when I can race, I'll try to put on a good show for the folks at home.
Well, Jason, congratulations on getting yourself a Simbox button box. I think a lot of us are asking, what are you going to do with that button box? Do you have any big plans for it?
So I actually had Doug make me 2 button boxes this past year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gift it to Tristan Maher, Thuggy. We went out tonight and we had the goal of making sure one of us can win because he really wanted the button box. So Tristan, happy early birthday, happy early Christmas, happy Easter, happy 4th of July, happy Kwanzaa, happy Ramadan, happy Hanukkah, happy Passover. Whatever you celebrate, you got a gift.
Happy Chris Mahana Kwanzaa, I think, is how that goes. But yeah, pretty cool. So that's going to go to Tristan Thuggy Maher. Congratulations, Thuggy. Wherever you are, hopefully you're watching the 3Y TV broadcast, and that's pretty cool. I'm going to erase the thingy up there. It says you're a winner of a Simbox button box and change it to gifter of a Simbox button box. Pretty darn cool. There we go. Jason, before we let you go, any shout outs you like to give out?
Yeah, thanks to NSRA, Chris, Justin, and their admin team for putting together this platform for us to race on. Thanks to Stay Tuned Sports Podcast for coming on board as a sponsor. Thanks to Stan Houseman with all the sponsorship. Beer Street Journal, which is on my truck. Go check out his website if you like beer. Thanks to Chris Darling at MaxGrafix for all the paint schemes he's been able to bless me with. If you guys need a paint scheme, check out Chris at maxgrafix.co. Website, Facebook, or hit him up on the Discord. He does awesome work. He's kind of backlogged now, so you might have to wait a while, but it's worth it. Thanks to bagcraftcornhole.com. If you guys need any bagcraft gear, whether it's t-shirts, stickers, hoodies, hats, whatever, make sure you go to www.bagcraftcornhole.com and give some business their way. They're an awesome group that sponsors a lot of sim racing here and there. And thanks to Doug Neal and Simbox. I can assure you, even if you didn't win a Simbox button box, they're worth it. I know I paid for mine this past year, and it was the best sim racing money I've spent because it really makes quality of life so much better. So if you're into sim racing, I definitely suggest you pick up a Simbox button box. They're very sick, really good quality at a really good price. So make sure you check them out on Facebook. Oh, and thanks 3i TV for the broadcast. I'm going to show my wife later tonight that I am a winner, and she should watch these races more often.
You're a winner and a gifter. Jason, congratulations on getting to victory lane, and hope to see you next week here back on the channel and racing to figure out where you'll start in that Stay Tuned Sports Podcast 300 here at Daytona. Best of luck.
Thanks, guys. I hope everyone enjoys the season, and I'll look forward to more races.
All right, well, that's going to do it with our interview with tonight's race winner, Jason Gracias, and very kind there, Drew, of Jason to gift away that Simbox button box that he won here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, outstanding. I mean, I guess Jason's just kind of won enough. I mean, no, it's a really, really cool gesture from Jason, and again, he's just carrying that momentum that he had for the majority of the season last night into tonight, being our race winner. Number one, finishes number one here tonight. Of course, second, you heard from him, Doug Neal in that 77 machine. Matt Cherry finishing in third position. And it's Stan Houseman in the Beer Street Journal number 39, finishing in fourth. Randy Bledsoe in fifth. Nathan Maurer in sixth. Adam Newton in seventh. And then Tristan Maher and David Buell in eighth and ninth. And then rounding out our top 10 was Christopher Darling.
Yeah, one of those drivers involved in that accident just before the end of stage number 2, as was the 11th place finisher Mikey Williams. Jeff Clifton also involved in that accident. Ben Mashburn, 13th here tonight. He had a rough night being knocked out there early in the second stage. Adam Lichty also involved in accidents here tonight. Randy Perdue, Martin Plute, Jason Shue, Patrick Morrison, 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. And then looking to round out our field here tonight, 19th goes to Julian Tesoro and Justin White, who got hit with that crazy net code there on lap number 12 here tonight. Well, folks, a great way to start off. An interesting race, kind of kept us on our toes, but an interesting way to start off the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series this season, Drew. Of course, we got another race with no points next week in the duels and the pole shootout. But after that, the following week, 2 weeks from now, it's the big one at Daytona here to start off the season. A lot to look forward to here on 3 Wide TV this year.
Yeah, I mean, if tonight was any indication, we're going to have a wild 2 weeks, and I mean, I have no doubt, based on the on-track product that these guys have produced in the past, that we are in for an incredibly exciting season. So, a great way to start the season, and looking forward to next week in the duels, and then the 250 the week after that.
Yeah, and just to keep it in mind, tonight we had a maximum of 20 trucks on the track. At Daytona in 2 weeks, we're going to have around 40 trucks on track. So that is going to be exciting as well. You're going to want to tune in for the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series 300 here at Daytona on April 15th, starting at 8:55 Eastern Time. But for myself, Peter Short, and everyone else, part of the NSRA family, we want to give a big shout out to our series sponsors one more time before we sign off. MaxGrafix.co. Stay Tuned Sports. There's a link to the stsports.podbean.com in the description. That's a link to their podcast if you want to have a listen. Of course, a link to the Simbox Button Box Facebook page. You can check on that and buy a Simbox Button Box. Just hit them up with a Facebook message and they will get back to you. Brookstone Animal Hospital, Taz Racing Customs. Of course, we'll be bringing you the Taz Racing Customs, biggest mover of the race award when we get to the regular season. BeerStreetJournal.com. Make sure to check them out for all of your craft beer news. Eclipse Photography, JNR Craftworks, also a great place to check out. There's a link in the description to them. You can check out the JNR Craftworks custom items and custom design stuff. Really, really cool. Definitely check it out at some point this season. But folks, stay safe. We'll see you in 1 week time to set the field for the big race in 2 weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun here all season long on 3 Wide TV. Have a good night, and we shall see ya.